Welcome. Welcome to my veranda. It is a beautiful, really kind of mild summer morning. We've had some really hot days already, and I think it's going to get pretty hot today, but right now it is just delightful. The sunlight on the trees and the birds in the branches, and it is a beautiful way to start the day on the veranda with a cup of tea. And a little treat for me this morning. If you've been watching, I've been on Whole30 for a couple of months now. And this morning I am trying for the first time, well actually last night was actually the first time, but in these couple of days I'm trying to see how I go with some freshly milled sourdough bread, and it is so yummy. Just like the first time in a couple of months I've eaten bread, and oh my goodness, it is so good. And for me, comfort food, I mean there's lots of different comfort foods, but I love Vegemite on toast with a bunch of butter and a cup of tea. It's like so like indulgent and comforting, and my childhood on a plate. So good. My name is Chrissy, and welcome to our little farm here in East Texas. Yeah, so building a homestead from scratch is hard work. Hey, if you're in the midst of it, you know there is just no way around the fact that there is a lot to do. A lot of work to do. There's a lot of work with preparing the ground if you're putting a garden in, building soil, building compost, preparing beds, the infrastructure. Man, I am so distracted right now. There's like a bunch of beautiful red cardinals. I'm so bad at getting distracted by birds. Let me see if I can show you. So this is my view right now. Let me see if I can zoom in. Oh, they're over here at the feeder. See them? Anyway, I will try and focus. So, building a homestead. A lot of hard work, no matter what. You've got infrastructure, you've got garden beds, you've got animals to purchase and then care for, and learning, if you haven't done it before, learning how to care for them. And that's a daily thing, a lot of chores every day. Aside from the building work, a lot of chores every day. So no matter what, it's a lot of work. And people do talk about that. And it's good to talk about that, because I think we can go in otherwise and get kind of sideswiped by the fact that, oh, I've had this beautiful romantic idea of growing my food and having animals around me and this beautiful simple life, and it is all of those things. It is, to me, the most humane way to live, and it's good for the soul as well as good for the body. But it is a lot of hard work, and it's good to know that, and it's good to count the cost before you go into it. But it can also be a bit extra. And what I mean by that is, some people may be able to launch into this homestead life with all their ducks in a row, right? So maybe there are people out there doing this. I don't know. I'm not one of them. But maybe there are people out there who are able to start their homestead with a lovely, nice big nest egg in the bank to help pay for all the things. Maybe they are in the prime of their youth, and their fitness and health is at peak. They have all the energy in the world, plus a bunch of friends to help out with all the things. I don't know if those people are out there and they're real, but maybe they are. But I suspect that for a lot of us, there are factors situations, circumstances, whatever you might want to call them, that we find ourselves in that hinder us in our walk as we are attempting to build this homestead. So I guess let's just imagine that you have been dreaming of this life of getting some land somewhere and starting a garden and getting animals and living this. You've been planning it all out in your mind, this beautiful homestead life, and you're finally able to take that first step. You're finally able to begin. And the days and the weeks go by, and suddenly you find yourself in overwhelm. You find yourself looking around you thinking, yes, I love this is what I want, but this is more than I anticipated. And I guess what I want to talk about is when you find yourself in survival mode. Now, this is not exclusive to homesteading. You can find yourself in survival mode for all sorts of reasons, in all sorts of circumstances in life. I have been there quite a lot in my life for all sorts of reasons. Maybe you have a baby and you've got little kids running around and you've got a lot to manage within your family, and that takes a lot. It does. I've been there quite a few times actually. And it's a beautiful season and you don't want to miss it. You want to soak that in and enjoy everything, but it can feel like you're in survival mode. It can feel like you're swimming and you're treading water and you're trying not to sink and you're trying to do all the things. Maybe you've had a health crisis. We've been there too. Maybe your health is crashed, or the health of a loved one, and you're trying to care for that person. Maybe you're not so young and sprightly anymore and you're trying to do this in your senior years. Maybe there's financial hardship and the struggle is real, and you've got bills to pay, and you've got so much off work to try and get by that you don't have enough hours left in the day to do what you want to do on the farm, on the land. Maybe that's overwhelming. Maybe you don't have the finances you need for the infrastructure or the animals, and you feel like, well, I'm here, I've got the land, but how am I ever going to get past this, right? You're in this mode of, I am just surviving, I am not thriving, and how are we going to get past this? Maybe you have personal relationships that aren't what you want them to be, aren't what they should be. Maybe you have personal trauma that is, that stuff is really real, and it can, maybe your nervous system and your adrenals are all strung out and you're like on tender hooks with your emotions all the time, because the stuff we live through impacts us and can have ongoing impacts. Maybe that's where you're at. For any number of reasons, you might be in a situation, and I've been in all of those situations, every single one of them, and it can feel like you're just getting by, you're just surviving, you're hanging on by a thread. And that's not a fun way to live. You can go through life like that. It will take a toll. It will take a toll on your family. It will take a toll on your health. But you don't have to go through life like that. And I think maybe, I don't know, maybe because I have been in a lot of those, or all of those situations more than once through my life, I have learned a few things about how to equip myself and my family so that we can thrive and grow and heal and learn together, even when life is hard and even when things aren't, we don't have all our ducks in a row. Now, I by no means have it all together. I do not want you to think that, because that is a very far distance from the truth. But I've been thinking about this a lot, and I thought, you know, if these things have helped me, perhaps if I share them, maybe, just maybe, they might help someone, even just one person. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to share with you some of the things, some of the practices and habits that I have instilled in my life, or attempting to, or that have helped me in the past. And I hope that that can encourage you. Okay, the first one I am doing right now, and that is a veranda cup of tea. Maybe you don't have a veranda, or maybe you call it a porch or a patio, whatever you want to call it, a balcony, maybe you have a balcony. But taking time and building the habit in your life of every day, taking a little pause. In Australia, I grew up anyway with a very deeply instilled habit or pastime of having morning tea and afternoon tea, which means, like, you have breakfast, early morning, you get up, you go work, you have brekkie, you go work, and you pause at around mid-morning for a cup of tea and maybe a bicky, or what you guys will call a cookie, or a little snack, a piece of fruit, something like that. And you just pause. Now, some people have their morning tea on the fly, but if you can take time to rest it can just be 10 or 15 minutes. It does not have to be long, but to just take time to pause, breathe deeply, and sip on your tea, or whatever your beverage of choice is. It might be, oh, hello, Mr. Mockingbird. I told you, I'm so distracted by birds. It might be a coffee. It might be a hot chocolate. Or you live in the South and it's an iced tea. It doesn't matter. But take time to pause. And the reason I say a veranda cup of tea is I have found, like, sometimes, yes, I understand it's too hot or it's too cold, but if you possibly can, even if you have to rug up or, you know, dress lightly, being outside and just breathing in the fresh air, watching the birds, the trees, hearing the hum of the insects, which right now is kind of loud, even just 10 minutes will make a big difference in your day. It's like this little mini holiday right in the middle of your morning and right in the middle of your afternoon. So morning tea and afternoon tea. I am very grateful that my family, and I think that is my mother's fault. She was very religious about tea time. Yes, we must have, I remember my dad joking that, like, how are we supposed to get any work done? We're always stopping for tea. Mind you, she probably did stop more often than just morning tea and afternoon tea. But it will rejuvenate you. That is what I have found. Okay, next one, nature walks. Now, if you are a gardener, you're already halfway there because you're out in nature. But there's something, I would take it a little bit further, because there is something about walking in nature and in creation, wandering through a grove of trees, through the bush, the forest, the woods, whatever it is you call it, and breathing deeply that rich, woody, earthy smell. And I have lived in town where that I had to go to a park to find that. That's okay. Wherever you are, walking in nature and taking time to breathe deeply and just watch what's going on around you and take it in is very healing and restoring to the nervous system, to your body physically. I think we don't realize sometimes how these little practices can make a really big difference in our overall health. So nature walks, maybe like for me, I've started these daily walks, just walking down the road, and it's fairly heavily wooded here in the piney woods of East Texas, but it doesn't matter if it's wooded. Maybe you live in Wyoming and it's all open plains. That's still a nature walk, and you can still benefit greatly from that. So I'm not saying you have to have trees, because I know some people don't. Like that's not the point. Get out in nature and breathe it in and let your eyes soak it in. I find that there is something that just, maybe it's because we live in such a controlled technological environment, that when I get out and I can just look at creation, it gives rest, not just to my mind, but to my eyes. And I feel calmed immediately. All right, that's number one. I got to be quick or we'll take forever here. Okay, well, grounding is number two. So, well, and these are not in any order actually of importance. I just wrote things down as they came into my head. But grounding, if you can get your shoes and socks off and get your bare feet on the ground, on the grass, on the dirt, on the rocks, on the sand, whatever it is where you live, just start with 15-20 minutes a day trying to get your skin in contact with the earth. It will restore you. It will. That's what we were created to be doing. That's what we were made for. And we have lost that connection and we have suffered for it. So I won't go deep into that, but get your bare feet on the ground. I am a person of faith. I am a believer in Jesus Christ, and my Christian faith is very important to me. That is not to say like you don't have to share my faith. That is completely, obviously your choice, and you are welcome here no matter what you believe. But I can't sort of go through this list without saying, to be perfectly honest, like that is the thing, the biggest thing that has carried me through difficulties of every kind. And that prayer and meditation on the living Word of God that just soaks and seeps into my soul has brought me more peace and more strength through financial difficulty, dire sickness, trauma, the early years of a lot of little children on the ground. All of these things that can throw you into survival mode, that has definitely been my number one source of strength and peace. Okay, breathing. I'm always trying to remind my children of this, and I have to remind myself of this, but taking deliberate, and you have to pause to do this. I think rush is when we end up really with our bodies in a really not good state. And we have to pause to breathe deeply. If you can do that several times a day, just flood your mind, your body, your whole system with oxygen. Breathe in God's good air and breathe out all of that stress and negativity and fear. That is a huge one right there. That is a huge one. I'm always reminding my children when they feel overwhelmed to just take those deep breaths. And not one of these things are going to just come in and rescue you. They're not going to come in and change your circumstances. They're not going to come in and all of a sudden flip a switch and life is, breezy and easy. But they will equip you to be able to walk with power through the hard things. So breathing. And if you possibly can, if you can be in nature and do that deep breathing, the air outside, now I don't know, I guess maybe if you live in a really big city and the air is very toxic, maybe this would not apply. So I'm not saying, anyway, disclaimer, but if you can get in outside in the fresh air, on a beach, in the forest, or the woods, or the bush, whatever you want to call it, in your garden, and breathe in that fresh air, that's even better. But if you can't, just do it inside. Stretching, there is something, and these are not things like, I suppose I've picked up tidbits along the way from different people. That is true, and different books I've read and whatnot. But I have never, what I'm sharing with you is just things that I have personally found and discovered that have helped me walk through hard times. And when I'm in survival mode, and like the latest for us is building a homestead. It's a lot of hard work. And there are a lot of outside external pressures that, you know, you guys don't necessarily see on here on our channel. And I know that you guys are living through all sorts of really hard things, right? Because we're human, and that's the nature of this world right now. And you turn on the TV, I mean, that's enough to traumatize anybody. But so I know there are lots of us sharing these difficult things as we walk through life. So building a homestead is hard, but if I can, and there are lots of things I could moan about, there are lots of things I could freak out about or complain about or feel overwhelmed by, but if I can instill these little small practices into my day, it just helps equip me to be able to take the next step, do the next thing, and continue on and build this dream that we're wanting for our family. Okay, so stretching is one. Well, that's what I was saying. So I have not had any formal training or counseling or therapy or any of those kind of things. I do read widely and try to learn, but these are just things that I have discovered by one means or another that have really helped me. And one of them is stretching. Like if I'm feeling all like tense in the shoulders and my mind is rushing and racing with negative thoughts and feeling like, oh, what about this, or what about that, or what about this, or what about that? If I can just take time to have a cup of tea, breathe deeply, pray, and then move my body. So maybe it's just like stretching. There's something about that, just like, I don't know, whatever it is for you that unlocks all of this tension. Sorry, that sun's just moved again. Stretch. Maybe it's something more than that. Maybe it's like you do some formal kind of exercise, and that's good. But if there's something about gentle stretching that just unlocks tension, that I think is really helpful. Music. I love to play soft classical music or soft acoustic music or gentle worship music when I am feeling in that state. And I mean, I just like it anyway, so I don't have to be in a state of overwhelm or not coping well to do this, because I just enjoy having that music on in the house. But definitely there is some, I mean, you know, they've done study after study about the impacts of classical music, peaceful music on plants, on animals. It helps them to grow stronger. It helps them to heal. Music can be healing. I am going to mention a husband and wife team, musical team that, I don't know that you call them a band, because it's a husband and wife. their music is played on, I think it's 444 hertz, and it's known to be healing. I think it's Mountains in the Sea is the name of them. I will look that up and I'll put a little note down the bottom, but their music is beautiful. So that's one you could try. Okay, I had to move because the sun was like, I've moved over here to this old rocking chair because the sun was like right in my face. Okay. All right, this next one is just about being very intentional with what you see. When you are building a homestead, there are so many things to do. And I know it can be super tempting when I'm here on this place to walk around and all I see are the things I haven't done yet. All I see are the infrastructure I need to build, the weeds I need to pull, the fences I need to fix, or the gate I need to fix, or the, you know, I don't know, like the animals I need to train, or the next thing, you know, like all I see is a big old list. And if you're already in survival mode, that can be so overwhelming and so draining. Like it's just like, oh my word, how am I ever going to get this done? But I challenge you to slow down enough as you walk through your homestead, no matter what state it's in, or maybe it's not your homestead, maybe it's your backyard, your garden, your house, and your area of living. Oh, it's a hummingbird this time, guys. So dainty and just delightful. Anyway, see, that's that. Well, I guess that's a point in case. Take time to walk through with your eyes open and see the beauty and the glory and the wonder that is there already. Let that seep into your being. Don't miss it. Don't miss it, because sometimes we're so busy rushing, and I'm getting got by the sun again. Sometimes we are so busy rushing from one thing to the next, and we're so overwhelmed by the list and the thoughts of inadequacy or struggle of why we haven't got this massive big list done yet, that we miss that. We miss what is right there already. Maybe it's the eyes of your children. Take time to look deeply into their eyes and tell them how much you love them. Take time to sit for a minute and watch and listen to the birds and hear the hum of the insects and watch the wonder of a tiny little shoot coming up through the ground. There are so many things that we can notice. Okay, I had to move again. I got the boys to help me move the rocking chair over under this tree because that sun found me again. Okay, so taking the time to notice, watch, observe, and really appreciate the wonder of creation, and I mean, your children are included in that. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your grandchildren, maybe it's your animals, maybe it's like it could be whatever it is for you that you think, oh wow, that is beautiful. But we can be so overwhelmed and we can be so running and rushing that we miss it. Just take time to see it. Have eyes that are open, looking for the things of beauty that are right there, because we can miss it. We can get so and I think in years gone by, especially in my early years of motherhood, especially with those first couple of babies, I don't know that I slowed down enough or looked up enough to see and really soak it in. I mean, I did see, and I loved my babies and I loved that season of life, but I was also allowing a lot of burdens to keep my gaze inward instead of having eyes to see what was right there. And it goes a step further than this, I think. Well, it can go a step further than this. You can take the time to intentionally create spaces of beauty in your home and on your farm or your little homestead or your garden, whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be expensive. I have spent my life scouring op shops and thrift stores, they're called here, looking for little things that can help make my house into a home. And it might be just putting a pot plant on a table. It might be finding some old prints. You can find some beautiful prints in like pictures in thrift stores, op shops, and places like that. Garage sales, estate sales. I found some gorgeous solid brass candle holders, like in candelabras, at an estate sale. They were like $2 each, and they are heavy. They're good quality. And this was when we first moved here, and I was like, I just need something beautiful to put on my shelf that's not a plastic container to hold something. Like, I need something beautiful. And I found these candlesticks, and I thought, and I love candles, absolutely love candles. And so that, for me, that was something I chose to. It might be something totally different for you, but intentionally creating spaces of beauty. And I think another thing that is helpful, so we can get so much in survival mode, especially on a homestead when you're building this. Like I said, we have our to-do list, and we look around us and all we see is what we haven't done yet. But if I can make sure I take time to, and for me, I do have a lot of help with this, like the boys mow the lawns. And granted, we've had some mower issues, and sometimes it doesn't look like I want it to, but keeping the lawns mown, the house swept and vacuumed, and things put away. And please don't think that I have this one down pat, because I don't. There are plenty of times when my house does not look like I want it to. But when I'm feeling really overwhelmed or really in survival mode, sometimes all I can do is go, okay, I'm sweeping the house. I'm sweeping the house, and I'm clearing the kitchen benches, because that will, and kids, can you please just help me? Let's mow the lawns. Let's get some order into this place, because it just lifts a burden, and it unlocks something in my brain that relieves stress, just to have some order in amongst what feels like chaos and things I can't control. One thing I can do is manage my space to make it more beautiful. I might not be able to make it perfect, and some days the mower will break down and my grass won't be mown and all clipped and nice. So there's no condemnation in this. There's no, well, if you don't have it all together. No, don't miss what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you will create peace for yourself when you prioritize those little things. And when there is a whole bunch going on that you can't control, maybe that's the one thing you can do that will bring peace into your mind, into some space in your life. Okay, the next thing I wrote down has become somewhat of a deliberate practice that I began in our early marriage when we were going through a very, very traumatic and difficult time. And it sounds kind of counterintuitive, so bear with me. But this one is to give to others. Give of yourself. And you might think, well, hang on a minute, I'm already in survival mode. Like, my tank is empty, I got nothing left. And believe me, I do know that feeling of I've got nothing left and I can't give, I can't possibly give. I've got no time, I've got no energy, I've got no space, I'm done. But what I have discovered is that if you will, and it does take discipline, it does, and it takes a deliberate, intentional planning and thought, but it doesn't have to be big, but take the time to give of yourself to somebody else. Somebody perhaps that you can look around you in your home, your family, your community, and see someone who you can give back to, that give of yourself, give of your time. Maybe it's taking a meal. Maybe it's just taking a bunch of flowers. Maybe it's a phone call or a text message. Hey, been thinking about you. I know you're going through XYZ. I just want you to know I'm here if you need me, or I'm thinking of you, or I'm praying for you, or can I bring you a meal, or whatever it is. But taking the time to give of yourself, you're sowing seeds of kindness, you're sowing love into others. But I think what it does, more importantly than any of that, is it lifts your gaze from an inward focus to an outward one. And when we, I think, can take our attention from our own burdens and our own struggles and troubles, it does lift that burden. It does. It doesn't remove things. It doesn't change things. I'll give you a point in case. And you never know what's going to happen when you do this. I remember when I was a very young mum, our eldest was just a baby, or like, I don't know, 6 months old or something. And it was a very, very dark time in my life, personally. And there was an older lady in the church that I was attending, and her name was Wilma. I cannot wait to see her again in heaven. She was an older lady. She was in her 80s, and she lived on her own. She was a widow. And she just was always so loving and kind. And I was struggling. And I thought to actually, let's give credit where credit is due. My husband said to me, what can you do for somebody else? Life is hard right now, but let's take our eyes off of ourselves. So it was him that put this idea in my head. And I thought about Wilma. And I thought, I'm going to go visit her and maybe have morning tea with her, because I knew she lived on her own, and I knew she didn't have, she was probably lonely, and she just stayed at home all day, and then she came to church on Sundays. So I walked with my baby in my pram, and I don't think you guys call it a pram. I had this conversation with someone the other day. Maybe a buggy. Is that what you call it? Where you put a baby? Or a stroller? But he was still too little, so we would call it a stroller when it's more of a toddler size, but a pram is like for a new baby. Anyway, I put him in the pram and walked up and down the hills to get to her house, and sat down and had a cup of tea with her. She was a wonderful cook. So she had tea, and she would have, I remember she used to make this apricot slice that was so delicious. Sometimes she would have shortbread. I made a practice of going over there every week and having a cup of tea with her, having morning tea. And I thought in my mind, I want to bless Wilma. She's a lovely lady. She's on her own. She's elderly. She's a widow. I will go visit her. So what ended up happening is I made this habit of going to visit Wilma. But that lady blessed me far more, I am sure, than I ever blessed her. We would sit and chat, and Zaya would play on the floor with some toys, and she would tell me stories of her younger years, and we would talk about the Lord together. And she did so much to strengthen me and bless me in ways that I never imagined or anticipated. And honestly, at the time, I felt like my life is too hard. I've got nothing to give to anybody else. But when I made that choice, and when I put myself out to go do that, I just can't tell you. It's just try it. Just try it. It will lift your gaze and it will change your mindset. That's what it did for me anyway. Okay. All right, this next one, we're getting near the end, is, I think this is the last one actually. Okay. Use your hands to make something. Now, probably a lot of you are already doing this because this is a gardening homesteading channel. This is about growing food. This is about cooking good food. So probably you're already doing this, but creating and making something with your hands connects your physical body, your brain, your mind, and it releases tension. I have no idea what the science is behind that, but it works. So maybe it's working in the garden with your hands, pulling weeds, tilling the soil, planting seeds, pruning, mulching, all the things, and watching it grow. Maybe it's making bread and putting all those ingredients in, stirring, kneading, shaping, letting it rise, baking, cookies or bickies, breads, cakes, whatever. Maybe it's sewing or crochet or knitting or woodworking, carving. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying it's any one thing, but the act of creating can do a lot. I will tell you this. So the garden has done that for me for years. I found bread making to be soothing to me when I am in overwhelm. But I have also just now, this is a more recent thing, and it just occurred to me in a conversation with a friend recently that since I started this YouTube channel, it has been a creative outlet for me that I have really enjoyed, and I have found therapeutic somehow. I don't even know, but so create something. Don't sit back in a passive, consuming victim mentality. Step out into creativity and it will unlock something. It just will. I think we're made in the image of God, who was and is the creator. And so we're built to create because we're made in his image. And it's just inside of us. And I think when we deny that, or when we live without expressing that, we're not living in the freedom and we're not living according to purpose. And that can be very stifling to the human spirit. And we perhaps don't even know that that's what's happening to us. But make something, create something, step into that. That's what you were built for and created for. And it will be very healing for you. I am sure. I'm confident of that. Okay, well, that's my thoughts on this topic. I really feel like by building those practices and habits into my life, I guess really over decades at this point, I have been able to grow and thrive and learn and get past the trouble of life to thrive even when I am in survival mode. Even when life is hard and tough and full of things I cannot change, even when I am building with my family this homestead and I have a lot of limitations and a lot that I can't do, by putting these things into practice, it makes a big difference. It really has. It's made a big difference for me, and I just hope that it can be some encouragement to some of you, to one of you even, that you can do more than you think you can. You're stronger than you think you are. And but really, I think what this is doing, these things that I have learned over the years to do, and I do not do them perfectly by any stretch, and sometimes I still fall in a hole and I have to drag myself back up out of it. But what it's doing, and the reason I think it helps and the reason I think it's effective, is we are restoring the natural order of things, the way we were made to live, the way we were created to be. That's why so many of these have a deep connection with nature and with the world around us that is created rather than man-made. It will bring peace and restoration to your nervous system, to your heart, mind, and body and soul. It really, that's what it has done for me. And I have a long, long way to go on my journey of the soul, I guess, my healing, my walking through life as a whole person. But these things have really, really helped me, and I really hope and pray that they can help you too. So I guess the crux of the matter, the message I am trying to convey to you today is you don't have to wait for life to get easier. You don't have to wait for all your problems to be solved. You can thrive today. You can grow today. You can step forward into life today by putting into practice some of these things. Okay, sunshine and raindrops, people. Thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.